Hey everybody. How you doing? I am Charlie O'Connor, and this is PHLY Flyers, presented by Mortgage CS. Check out mortgagecs.com/PHLY. Start your home buying process today. Company MLSID number 1464766. As I said, I am Charlie O'Connor, and joining me today is our good friend JP Zapata. JP, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on, Charlie. I appreciate you inviting me. And listen, it's the off season here, but I'm excited to talk a little fly, guys. We got some good topics today, Charlie.
Exactly. And you will be talking a little bit of Flyers next week on the Anthony Gargano show, right? We got our ranking list coming up, our top 25 Philadelphia sports games. Is that what it is, JP? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so all of us here at PHLY Sports, we have a top 25 list, all the games you can think of in Philly sports history. And I'm excited for this one, Charlie, because obviously, for people who haven't watched Anthony Gargano show, we have a great dynamic because we have Anthony and VG, who are more of the older heads, and then we have Andrew and myself, we're a little bit of the younger guys. So it's always fun having these dialogues with different generations. And I'm sure Anthony and VG are going to school us a little bit on some of these old school games, but I'm excited. It's a great learning experience for myself. Watch some of these games that I wasn't even alive for. So I'm excited. It's going to be fun for the network as a whole.
Yeah, I'm pumped. We'll be doing some written content as well, so I'll be working on that. But I have been told we do have a few Flyers games. Because this starts in the last 50 years, 25? How long of a time frame is it?
I do believe it's since all the games through the 80s. So from 1980 up until now. And so we have obviously 40 plus years of games to kind of talk about here. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be some great debates too, but that's all in the beauty, right? Debating what game you think is better. And I'm sure all of our watchers and listeners are going to be chiming in and giving us some great feedback as well. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope everyone does partake because it's going to be a good one.
Definitely. I would highly recommend checking out the Anthony Gargano show next week. And there will be some Flyers games. So it's not like the Flyers era has been totally terrible since the 80s. We have the 80s were very good for the Flyers. The 90s were fun. Even the 2000s had their moments. The 2010s, maybe not so much. But and then so far this decade, it has been a struggle. But we are hoping that in the near future, things will turn around. Matvei Michkov is on the way. He will be here starting the season, and hopefully we will have a lot more games in the next edition of this list that we do 5-10 years in the future, because I am very confident that we will still have the Anthony Gargano show, however long it takes for us to do another one of these lists. We absolutely will. And JP, you've been doing a great job with Anthony. Definitely happy to see you move on. You still pop in the show once in a while, but really happy to see you end up with the flagship show at ALLCITY PHLY.
Absolutely, can't stay away. It's always a lot of fun, man. But you gotta talk Flyers, gotta talk some Fly guys. I'm excited.
Exactly. And this week, not a lot happened, but it's fair to say that some things happened. And there are things that happened this week in Flyers world that maybe on this show, we didn't necessarily spend a lot of time discussing. So for this edition of F Around Friday, I just want to make sure we're all caught up, because there were some things that maybe me and Bill mentioned in passing, or maybe didn't even mention at all, that I want to just run through. And the first thing I want to run through is something that we certainly didn't have the opportunity to talk about because it just got announced this morning. Our old pal, Wade Allison. He is heading east. Now, you almost certainly cannot read the other language, but you can read the translation. Wade Ellison. It's not Ellison, it's Allison, but thank you, Google Translate. You did your best. I wouldn't quite call him a Canadian striker either. I would say he's a Canadian forward. But again, Google Translate, you're doing your best. Wade Allison signed a deal in the KHL. He will be playing for the Kazakhstan-based Barry's Astana, per tweet by the club. This is going by Bill Meltzer. It is a little bit of a bummer, I have to say. Not that, I was expecting the Flyers to bring back Wade Allison or anything. It became clear a while ago that ship sailed. He obviously was traded. at the deadline a few months back for Denis Gurianov, who also does not appear to be part of the long-term future of the Flyers. It does not appear he's going to be re-signing with the organization. But it was abundantly clear that the Flyers traded Wade Allison because they didn't see a future with him in the organization. The ship had sailed, essentially. But I do want to talk a little bit about Wade because it's a bummer. I really thought, and he was a second round pick, in the Hextall era, but I really thought Wade Allison had an NHL future. And hey, maybe he ends up, back in the NHL in a few years if he dominates in the K. He can never completely shut that door. But I really saw a guy who I thought was going to be a quality, at least bottom six forward and maybe even a middle six forward. And instead, it just never really worked out. He had the one season in 2022-2023 where he played 60 games, had 9 goals, 15 points, but it just never really worked out. JP, I'm curious, as someone who very much watches the games as a fan, what were your thoughts on Wade Allison? Were you surprised that it didn't end the way I think a lot of people hoped it was going to end for Wade?
I don't think I was surprised because as much as I loved his game and I really thought that he could be a power forward for this team, especially on that power play, but he couldn't stay healthy. And that was really kind of his tenure. He couldn't stay healthy, but you kind of saw that skill. I'm reading some of the comments in the comment section. And first off, shouts to Kelly Henkel. What's up, Hanks? But we all saw the talent there, but we all saw he also couldn't stay healthy. So yes, it is truly a bummer. It's surprising that he lasted he was still in the Flyers organization last year and before he got traded to Nashville. And, you hope nothing for the best out there. Obviously he needs to stay healthy, but this is now where he's going to be. And we'll now be keeping an eye on, is Kazakhstan Barry? Is that what it's called?
Kazakhstan. So it's Barry's Astana, according to Bill
Barry's
Meltzer. It's the team is in the country of Kazakhstan though. So it's Kazakhstan based team.
Also, Charlie, he was Owen Tippett's twin. We lost that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, they definitely had some similarities. Wade was much heavier on the tattoos than Owen, but yeah, you could if maybe that's why they had to get rid of him. Maybe that's why he couldn't make the team because they were afraid that people were going to mix up Owen Tippett and Wade Allison. But you're absolutely right that the injuries played a big role in him not necessarily working out in Philadelphia. I think back to kind of the way his NHL career started. So his NHL career starts, he gets called up near the end of the 2020-2021 season. That was one of quite a few disastrous seasons, but that was the COVID shortened season, not the one that got stopped because of the pandemic, but the one that was intentionally shortened. It started in January, it ended in May. He gets called up, I believe it was in March or April. I think it was April is when he got called up. And that team, by then, the season was essentially over. They had no chance of making the playoffs. Everybody hated what was going on. Carter Hart was having a mental breakdown. Everybody hated Alain Vigneault. It was just a mess. Wade Allison comes up, fresh face, bushy-tailed, and he plays really well. And he was one of the true bright spots over those final, 3-4 weeks of the year. Scores, I believe it was 7 points in 14 games, but underlying numbers were through the roof. And because of that, people were understandably penciling him into the lineup for game 1 of 2021-2022. He was the hype prospect going into that rookie camp. Has a real good start to rookie camp. He plays in both rookie games. First rookie game, he stands out. Second rookie game, he gets hurt. It's a high ankle sprain. He avoids a full break of the ankle. But because of that high ankle sprain, he doesn't make the team out of camp. He's injured for the first bulk of the first half of the year. I think he came back around January, February of that year. But that was his chance in retrospect. That was his opportunity to really carve out a spot and make it clear that he deserved to be in NHL. That was a not good Flyers team. There was a lot of room for players to basically carve out a role. And instead, Wade Allison spent the first half of that year recovering from a serious injury. He then does make the team in 2022-2023, but I can't help but think that maybe he kind of missed his shot, that was his chance. And maybe if he doesn't have that ankle sprain in rookie camp, in that rookie game, maybe in 2021-2022, he establishes himself as a top 9 forward. And then when guys like Bobby Brink, guys like Tyson Forrester, when they're coming up, Wade Allison already has a spot locked in. That, it's not that because that's what happened when he got sent down to the start of camp this past year. It was that he got pushed out essentially by Bobby Brink and by Tyson Forrester. If he had already established himself as a high-end contributor by then, he's not going to get pushed out. He would have had a locked-in spot. Maybe they don't sign Garnet Hathaway because they figure Wade Allison is our Garnet Hathaway. Instead, he gets hurt. He barely gets in any NHL action that season that was supposed to be his year. And then in the season he actually does get, just didn't have the same kind of momentum, didn't really gel with Torts from what I understand. And now he's on the KHL.
Yeah, I was about to ask you, what was Torts' feelings about, because I know Jimmy Puckett's in the comment section brought it up too, but I did hear some rumblings too about Torts not too keen on the Wade Allisons.
Yeah, the understanding I have from the people I talked to about the Wade Allison situation was that Torts did not like his approach. And Torts was always harping on Wade Allison that he didn't think his approach to just hockey in general was professional enough. I actually don't think it was quite fair to Wade, because Wade he's a fun-loving guy. You know, he's a guy who likes to joke, who likes to laugh, who likes to have a good time. And for whatever reason, that just rubbed Torts the wrong way. Torts wanted a more business-like approach with Wade Allison. And Allison, to his credit, he tried. You know, he cut his hair. He started being more serious in pressers in the locker room and everything. And it just seemed like sometimes Torts just has a feeling about a guy. And it just seems like Torts had the feeling about Wade Allison that he wasn't an NHL caliber player. And I guess in Tortorella's defense, he then got traded to Nashville, and Nashville apparently had the same feeling. So maybe Torts is right. I just know I liked Wade Allison, and it's a bummer to me that he didn't work out here.
No, I don't know. I mean, I don't know Wade Allison fully, but I mean, you know, just kind of feeding off of what's going on with the Phillies right now. Don't you want some of those fun-loving guys? Keep the locker room nice and keen. You definitely want your serious guys. You want your leaders. You want those guys to keep things, you know, in straight line when need be. But then you also want those guys, you know, when things get serious, crack a little joke, you know, get the vibes going a little bit.
Exactly. And I think Wade could have been that guy. But again, they are hiring, like, one of the reasons why they have John Tortorella as the coach. And this is, you know, it will be proven over time whether this is the right decision or the wrong decision. But they view John Tortorella as the guy who evaluates whether people should be part of this or whether they shouldn't be. And you know, I've said this, that like the idea of Torts not liking players, yes, that can be frustrating to fans, especially if Torts decides he doesn't like a guy who fans like. But for the Flyers, that's a feature of this, not a bug. Like, that's part of the plan. Part of the plan is that they believe John Tortorella is uniquely qualified to decide, like, which players got that dog in them and which ones don't. And John Tortorella clearly came to the conclusion with Wade Allison that he doesn't think Wade Allison has it, that Wade Allison cannot be a part of a winning NHL team. Now, personally, I didn't think that was quite fair to Wade Allison, but that's what you hired Torts to do. You hired Torts to weed out the guys who shouldn't be part of this. Torts decided that Wade Allison shouldn't be part of this. And the Flyers took him at his word. They parked him down in the minors all last season, and then they traded him away for peanuts at the deadline because John Tortorella, on the whole, does not think that Wade Allison is an NHL caliber player. Now he's in the KHL. We'll see if he's a KHL caliber player. I think he's going to do quite well, but I'm interested to see how he does in the KHL. I will say that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll always remember Wade Allison in that flow and that fun-loving person, but now he's off to the KHL.
Off to the K. So now, changing gears for a minute, we're going to move towards a player who is still on the Flyers roster. This was at the Caravan in, I believe it was Ocean City, New Jersey. Yeah. It was Jamie Drysdale and Tyson Forrester were there. It's more of like a community thing. They're trying to, you know, drum up support for the Flyers, but because the players are there, they can be interviewed. And I was not at this Caravan. We had a show at 1 p.m., so I was not able to drive down to Ocean City, unfortunately. But Adam Kimmelman of NHL.com was there and interviewed Jamie Drysdale. And we've talked about on this show that Jamie Drysdale was injured. We talked about it during the season. We talked about it after the season when Drysdale more or less said without saying that he was playing hurt all year. And then Danny Briere said that he is going to be having a procedure, most likely be having a procedure on the core muscle area of his body. Then in early June, I reported that surgery was completed. But this is the first time that Jamie Drysdale himself opened up about the nature of the surgery. He confirmed that it was a sports hernia. And the quote from the Adam Kilman article on NHL.com from Jamie Drysdale, the doctors mentioned it was not ideal. It was probably worse than what they thought it was. I guess they call it a sports hernia, but really just a tear of the muscle. Jamie Drysdale is skating again. He expects to be fully ready and fully healthy for training camp, but we do now have clarity on the exact nature of the injury. And we can now say with certainty that Jamie Drysdale was not 100% healthy at any time so far that he's worn a Flyers jersey. JP, what does that do for your opinion of his first season in orange and black? What does that do for your view of his ceiling? And maybe does that make you reassess what you saw?
Well, if you're any type of Flyers fan, I mean, you have to read that and think to yourself, wow, like you have to love him even more because this man came in here and played hurt. And obviously, look, the Cutter Gauthier trade put enough pressure on him because, we give Anaheim one of our top prospects. In comes in Drysdale, who was one of their top prospects. And we all kind of put a little bit of pressure on him because obviously that was the big trade piece. We all thought Cutter was going to be part of the future. And then, I think I was with you and Bill when we first saw him play and watching him skate on that ice. We were just in awe. And that's kind of the one thing we're hanging on to, right, is that skating ability, being able to help in the offensive zone and that type of aspect. But, I mean, Charlie, just imagine coming into this upcoming season, he's fully healthy. I think that you have some high aspirations this upcoming season for Jamie Drysdale on that blue line. And a lot of these, blue liners are young, and we're still trying to figure out what their exact ceiling is. And for Drysdale, to be honest, Charlie is one of those guys where I do have high hopes for because of some of the glimpses that I saw. And now hopefully he can be healthy. But that's crazy. The entire season, not fully 100%. You got to tip your hat off to him, man.
Yeah, and he said in the interview, apparently he suffered the injury in the very first game of the season, which is rough. So even before the Flyers traded for him, it was abundantly clear when you talk to people on the record with the Flyers and off the record that they knew, like this was no surprise. They knew when they made the trade that he was battling this. And I believe Danny Briere actually said after the season that they had brought up the idea to him of like, if you want to get the surgery and sit out the rest of the year, you can. Like, we have your back. And Drysdale basically said, no, I want to play through it. I know I'm not going to be 100%. I'm probably not going to be as effective as I would be otherwise. But I've played in so few games over the last few years because of the injuries. He got the shoulder surgery, missed basically the entire previous year. He just wanted to get NHL experience because he didn't want his development to be stunted. And Briere praised him for it. The negative of it, though, is that it allowed fans to, I think, get a negative first impression of Jamie Drysdale. There are a lot of people, even people in this very comment section, I see them every day, that do not think highly of Jamie Drysdale. They think he's going to be a bust. They think he'll never stay healthy. They think the Flyers got taken to the cleaners in the Cutter Gauthier trade. And it's going to be interesting if those people change their tune this upcoming season, if he shows that, hey, I'm healthy. Like, he already looked like a great skater, even playing through a sports hernia. I'm really excited to see how good of a skater he can look like when he's 100%. That's going to be exciting. Now, maybe he doesn't have the it factor. Maybe he doesn't have the hockey IQ and the hockey sense and whatever to take full advantage of his skills. But it's abundantly clear he has skills. And now we're realizing that, like, he wasn't even using all of those skills last year because he was playing hurt from day one.
So I guess I have to ask. So the Pittsburgh, when we played in Pittsburgh and he got dropped down and, it looked like we all of us thought it was that shoulder injury. So that was that in connection with that sports hernia as well? Because that one scared us all there.
My understanding is no. Obviously he was playing through the sports hernia when he got injured, but if anything, like that was just a completely separate deal that he was then, it gave him maybe some time to recover a little bit and let the sports hernia heal. But like, you need to get surgery to fix this thing. Like, it's not like sitting around for a month and a half, however long he was out for post that shoulder injury. It's not like it was going to get better without surgery. So maybe it dulled the pain a little bit because he wasn't, obviously skating and playing it at an NHL level through an injury for the time he was rehabbing the shoulder. But it's not like that was linked. It's not like he got the shoulder injury because of the sports hernia. I think those were two separate things. And he has the surgery. He says he's skating. The hope is that he will be fully clear for the start of camp. My understanding is that is almost a certainty as long as there's no sort of like Kevin Hayes type setback.
Yeah.
But I'm excited. I'm excited to see what Jamie Drysdale looks like when he is 100%. And then we can maybe fairly evaluate the trade. We can fairly evaluate who he is, because the Flyers think that Jamie Drysdale can be not just a core member of their defense, but like a true top of the lineup player. I'm excited to see if they're right.
Real quick before we go to the ad break here. So what should be, obviously everyone's got expectations. Everyone likes expectations in Flyers Nation. What should be the realistic expectation for Flyers fans with Jamie Drysdale this season?
That's an interesting question. I would say, I mean, my expectation would be, somewhere in like that 30 to 40 point range. I want to see him be useful on the power play. But what I really want to see from him is I want to see him not get crushed at 5-on-5. He doesn't have to dominate at 5-on-5. I'm not expecting this, Bradshaw reclamation project to happen overnight. I'm not expecting him to be Sean Walker immediately. That would be great if he's that good right off the bat, but I'm not expecting it. What I am hoping for is to see real progress. I'm hoping that for maybe the first time in his career, his underlying numbers aren't completely in the toilet. And you start to see him taking advantage of that skating ability, of the hockey sense that he showed in juniors, of his lateral mobility, all the things that make him an exciting young player. I want to see them start to pop up in the numbers. So not necessarily looking for him to dominate, but I'm certainly looking for him to take a step. And there's a reason why me and Bill, when we talked earlier this week about the biggest storylines of the year, number one, obviously, is going to be Mitchkov. 100% it's Matvei Mitchkov. How good is he going to be? How does he mesh with Torts? That's going to be the big story. But 2A and 2B are the goalies and Jamie Drysdale. And you could certainly make a case that Jamie Drysdale is 2 and the goalies are 3, because they traded Cutter Gauthier for him. He is now, like, the Flyers had 2 top 10 picks, Matvei Mitchkov and Cutter Gauthier. Cutter Gauthier is now Jamie Drysdale. That's what they turned him into. So now Jamie Drysdale has to be a core piece if this is going to work, because you can't get nothing out of the 5th overall pick. You got something for him. You got Jamie Drysdale. Now Jamie Drysdale has to prove that he can be more than just something.
Absolutely spot on there, Charlie. Listen, Charlie, I'm a betting person on Jamie Drysdale. And if you are a betting person in general, well, let me talk to you guys real quick about our friends over at Bet Parks. Guys, you gotta take advantage of the sports book. There are daily bets that you could be taking advantage of here today, and I want you to use it with Bet Parks here. Guys, we're in the middle of baseball season. We're in the middle of soccer season. We're really in the middle of soccer season as we have the finals here this upcoming Sunday, both for the Euros and Copa America. So if you guys want to bet on any of the sports that are going on, we got the Wimbledon going on as well right now. You guys have to head on over to the Bet Parks Sportsbook app. And it's important to let you know that we are brought to you by the Bet Parks Sportsbook app. Get in the zone with Bet Parks app here today. Win big with all-day action. Win your first $10 bet and earn up to $125 in sports bonus bets. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet Parks. Download the app and play along with us today. You must be 21 or older. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. And with that said, let's also talk about our friends over at Indeed. Guys, look, I understand the work market is tough right now. I'm talking to my friends who are looking for new jobs. It is extremely tough. I know about the hiring process, but I want to make it easier for you. That's why I want to recommend Indeed, guys, because if you are in that job market, whether you're looking for a job or if you're looking for employers, Indeed is the spot for you guys to go. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match. You match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million monthly visitors, according to the Indeed data that they have collected. Of course, we're all big data researchers here as well. And a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates much faster. And Indeed doesn't just help with your hiring faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, and according to the recent Indeed survey. And this is what you got to do, guys. All listeners of today's show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visible at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on today's podcast from PHLY Flyers. Again, that's Indeed.com/AllCity. Just keep in mind, terms and conditions do apply. You need to hire? you need Indeed. And thank you to our friends over at Indeed.
Thank you very much, JP. One thing I do have to ask you about, because it came
Yes,
up in your read on the bet parks. How excited are you for the Copa America final?
Oh, dude, you have no idea, man. Long time waited for this one. It's funny the amount of people who I really feel honored and blessed. The amount of people have messaged me, texted me about Colombia. It's exciting, man. We haven't been in the spot since 2001. We're extremely excited, and it's going to be in Miami. It's going to be here in the States. So Argentina, Miami, or Argentina, Colombia, long rivals, but it should be a lot of fun, man. I appreciate you asking, Charlie.
Are you feeling good? Do you think they can bring it home?
Yeah, you know what? This team is a lot of fun. I'm trying to find maybe like, you know what this team kind of reminds me of in a legit way? Like the 93 Phillies, because like before 2024, I did not expect them to go on the run. They've been unbeaten this entire year. We haven't lost a game. And so like they're just a fun bunch. James Rodriguez is playing like a superstar right now. And a lot of people did expect them right before the tournament to go pretty far. But I think if people answer the question in January, they didn't have the same thoughts. So it's a lot of fun, but I do feel good. I think there's a legit shot. Argentina is not the strongest, but of course, when you have the best player in the world, that changes everything. And as you know, Charlie.
Yeah. No, I'll be rooting for Colombia for you, JP, because just for some background for our listeners and our viewers, JP has been pumped for this tournament for weeks, months prior to this tournament. Like, I'm not a huge soccer guy, but like I follow it to a degree. But like I didn't even know the Copa America was happening until I was seeing JP just going like, "We're gonna do it." So I'm pumped that they made it to the final.
You do need to educate Andrew, because Andrew, our Irishman, is rooting for England. So he's been rooting for England the whole tournament from the Euros too.
Yeah, that is unacceptable. A true Irishman always roots against the Brits.
Yes, absolutely.
Just saying. But yeah, definitely we'll be rooting for Colombia for you, JP. I just wanted to hear about that. But now we're going to get back to the Philadelphia Flyers. And this is a guy, Eric Johnson, who I think a lot of fans, particularly of the online variety, were not particularly happy that they brought him back. Personally, I never really saw a problem with it. They showed last year with Mark Stahl that they're willing to use this seventh defenseman mentor as actually a seventh defenseman. Mark Stahl did not get into a ton of games. I do not expect Eric Johnson to get into a ton of games. Eric Johnson does not expect Eric Johnson to get into a ton of games. He basically said in this availability that we're going to talk about, if he plays 20 games, 30 games, 40 games, 50 games, it doesn't matter. He's willing to do whatever it takes for the good of the team. I do think Eric Johnson does want to get at least 20 games because he is closing in on 1,000 NHL games. I wouldn't be surprised if that is a big part of why he is signing for one more year. He wants to reach that threshold. It's obviously prestigious. It's a serious achievement. I believe he only has to play 13 games before he gets to 1,000. So should reach that with the Flyers. But he signs his one-year extension. I believe it was on July 1st. He signed it before the official start of free agency. 1 year, $1 million, relatively reasonable contract. But we didn't get to talk to him. The media did get to talk to Eric Johnson yesterday. And Eric Johnson said some interesting things. I've interviewed Eric Johnson. Johnson is a generally speaking great human being. Like, he is one of those legitimately good dudes that you want in your room. He's a helpful guy. He's always got a smile on his face. He's willing to sacrifice for the good of the team. Like, you can tell why the Flyers wanted him to be the mentor. But the interesting things he had to say were more about one Matvei Michkov. So we've talked about it this week, Bill and I, the idea of Scott Laughton being an aid for Michkov in terms of helping him to integrate with the culture. Scott Laughton is such a big locker room guy. He's the kind of guy who makes sure everyone's having a good time. Everybody's tight. He's inviting people out to the bars. He's hanging out, going in prank wars with the Travi. Like, this is just what he does. He is a glue guy in that room. And the idea is that he will be able to help Matvei Michkov, especially if Matvei Michkov, because he is a very competitive, intense person, might lose his temper at times, and that Laughton can maybe serve to, calm everything down if Michkov flies off the handle occasionally. Well, one thing that was interesting about this availability with Eric Johnson is that Eric Johnson apparently might serve this role as well. And I didn't really think of that because Eric Johnson obviously is a defenseman. My thought was that he would be more focused on, helping to develop Igor Zamula, helping to develop Cam York, Jamie Drysdale, that would be his role. However, Eric Johnson basically said that he's already texting via translator with Matvei Michkov. They have the same agency, CAA. I believe Michkov's agent is JP Barry, and Johnson's agent is Pat Brisson. But Barry and Brisson work together. They're in the same agency. They work hand in hand. So there's a connection there. Johnson is already talking to Michkov. He's already trying to integrate him into the team culture, make him feel welcome, make him feel comfortable. How important do you think this can be for a guy like Michkov, who's not only getting used to a new league, he's going to be getting used to a new country?
I mean, this is huge, Charlie. I mean, I feel like not even just the team, but the city, they're embracing Michkov. Like, I'm driving over from our office back into Jersey. Charlie, I see a billboard welcoming Michkov. Like, this whole entire city is welcoming him. And like, I don't understand people who have a problem with signing Eric Johnson for 1 year, because you guys got to remember, when you're talking about a rebuild, there's a lot of young people that are going to go through your team. Those veteran players are extremely important, not only for their development, but it's a tough adjustment, especially for Michkov coming over from a different country, a different league. Obviously, the KHL, we all know it's a different type of style as well. So being able, I think that's huge on Eric Johnson as well, taking the initiative already, trying to communicate and make him feel super comfortable. So I'm loving everything I'm hearing, and this is important. This is exactly what you want to do for Michkov.
Yeah, I think it speaks, as you hinted, it speaks to the character of Eric Johnson. Now, is it possible that like the Flyers asked him? Is it possible that maybe Pat Brisson or JP Barry asked Eric Johnson to do this? It's possible. But knowing what I know about Eric Johnson, it wouldn't shock me if he came up with this idea on his own. Maybe he reached out to Brisson and JP Barry. It's like, hey, can you give me Matvei's number? I'd love to text him and welcome him to the team now that I'm officially part of the team for another year. It seems like something he would do. And there absolutely is value in having a good guy. And Eric Johnson is very clearly one of the good guys in this league. There's value in that when, as Bill and I talked about this week, there's probably no more important person, at least for the next 5-6 years of the Philadelphia Flyers, than Matvei Michkov. And you need to protect your investment. You need to do everything you can to make him feel welcome, make him feel comfortable, because a comfortable player is going to be a more productive player and is going to be more likely to hit his ceiling. And the Flyers hope that ceiling is that of a superstar. If Eric Johnson is going to be Matvei Michkov's professional best friend this season, I would give him more than $1 million to do that. Like, that is a very, very important role.
I'm not going to lie to you. So, Charlie, I was reading some of your discourse on Twitter with some of the fans, and one thing I highly agreed with you. A lot of people want to know who's going to be on Michkov's line. I kind of really want Coots on that line for that veteran presence. And when you're talking about the transition from the KHL to the NHL, I can't think of anyone better to be line mates than with Sean Couturier, especially at center there.
Yeah, it was just something I was chatting with people on Twitter about last night. Obviously, everybody's very excited about the imminent arrival of Matvei Michkov. But yeah, it's kind of like the two centers who are most likely to end up with Michkov are Couturier and Frost. And they both have points in their favor as to why they should be the center. The big thing for Couturier, and this is something you spoke to, is just Couturier. I don't know if I've covered a player. Personally, there's certainly, I guess if you've covered Sidney Crosby or Wayne Gretzky, but like for me personally, I haven't covered a player that is has a smarter hockey mind than Sean Couturier. He thinks the game at a higher level than any player I've covered. That's Claude Giroux, that's Jake Voracek, really good players, but no one thinks the game at a higher level, for me personally, that I've watched, than Sean Couturier. Matvei Michkov, at least offensively. Defensively, he's not perfect. But offensively, he is an offensive genius. He thinks the game at such a high level. That actually supposedly is one of the reasons why he's clashed with teammates before, is that he sees things on the ice that they don't see, and then he gets frustrated because he's like, how did you not see that? If I went in this angle, I was going to score a goal. How did you not see me do that? And they didn't see it because they're not the hockey genius that Matvei Michkov is. Well, Sean Couturier is the guy who, and this isn't me slandering Morgan Frost. I'm not saying Morgan Frost is a dumb hockey player, but he doesn't have the same hockey IQ that Sean Couturier has. Very few players have the same hockey IQ that Sean Couturier has. And the exciting part about a Couturier-Michkov duo at 5-on-5 is that maybe they think the game at the same level. And in the offensive zone, they can just think, they can play off each other in a way that Frost and Michkov might not be able to. Even if Frost is the better pure passer, maybe the dual hockey IQs of Couturier and Michkov in the offensive zone, it could potentially lead to a lot of points. It's an exciting idea.
No, 100%. And the way I look at it as well is like, there's no secret. Coots had a bad year last year, and possibly playing with a young, hungry Michkov, they could help each other out. It's like, I scratch your back, you scratch my back. So I'm excited. If that does happen, I would definitely be excited for that.
Yeah, and Couturier's best offensive years, to be sure, were mostly paired with Claude Giroux, and that was different types of players. I'm certainly not comparing Michkov stylistically to Giroux, but the similarities the two has are the fact that they're both super high skilled players who are offensive wizards, and Michkov projects to be that. Giroux obviously was that. And Couturier was able to be like the support piece, the guy who made sure they had the puck all the time so that Giroux could work his magic in the offensive zone. Maybe he could serve that same purpose for Matvei Michkov.
110%, man.
Yeah, but going back to Erik Johnson for a second.
Yes.
I do want to talk a little bit about the role he's going to play, because he's not getting paid much. He's on the roster. And I think the argument from the people who were opposed to the re-signing is that he's taking up a spot that you could use to dress a kid. That by signing Erik Johnson, that means that it's less likely that Adam Ginning makes the team. It makes it less likely that Ronnie Attard makes the team, Hunter McDonald, guys like that. The important part you have to remember, and again, you can disagree with this philosophy, but this is the way the Flyers look at it. Erik Johnson is being signed to be the number 7. He is being signed to be the extra defenseman. Now, he might start in game 1. It's possible. Maybe he has a good camp. Maybe somebody gets hurt, whatever. But they did not sign him to play every night. That's what they told us was the case for Mark Stahl. I will admit, I was skeptical. I was like, is John Tortorella really going to bench Mark Stahl, the veteran, the guy who he's coached before, who last season was in the top 4 on a Stanley Cup Finals team? Is he really going to have the guts to bench Mark Stahl? And he did. Bench him quite a lot. It seems like Erik Johnson is going to take up that same role. And the way that the Flyers look at it is, yeah, they could theoretically have Adam Ginning as the 7. But they would rather Adam Ginning play every night in the AHL than play 35 games in the NHL, serving as the 7 and only checking in when a guy gets hurt or when a guy needs a break or when Torts wants to send a message to whoever he's angry at on that particular day. They don't want a rookie playing that role. They don't want a rookie in a rotation. They want a rookie playing every day, or not even a rookie, just a young developing player. They want that guy playing most of the time. That wouldn't necessarily be the case if he was serving as the 7. That's why they look at it and they say Erik Johnson isn't blocking a kid. He is serving in a role that we would not have a kid serve in anyway. And if we're going to have a number 7, why not get a great guy who can help us out in the room when he's not playing and be a positive influence on the young players, be a mentor to the defensemen, and maybe even be a best friend to Matvei Michkov.
Listen, I don't see any negatives with Erik Johnson here. I mean, like, just look at everyone in the blue line. I mean, like, I know Nick Seeler is like, 30, 31. But like everyone else is pretty young, and Nick Seeler doesn't have a lot of experience of playing at the highest level. There's something super valuable, especially during a rebuild. And I've heard some gripes as well about the Garnet Hathaway extension as well. But like, there's something super valuable of having veteran players especially when you have a bunch of young players that they can just look up to. So, I mean, Erik Johnson, like you talked about, we're talking 20 games at most, but having him be supporting those young guys, that's the real value. And look, if the Jennings, the Attards of the world, if they're lighting on fire in Lehigh Valley, yeah, I'll be screaming too. Like, let's try to get them up in Philly. Let's see what they got here with the Flyers. But for right now, I mean, there's just nothing to be mad about with Eric Johnson, guys. We got our Yoda here for the blue line. Come on.
I kind of love that. Kind of love the idea of Eric
Right?
Johnson. He's got the Stanley Cup ring. He's the old mentor who can teach the young Luke Skywalker, aka Matvei Michkov, the ropes of the NHL. That said, might need a translator, but we can manage. We can manage.
Really,
JB,
how's your Russian, real quick?
It is really bad. I actually thought about this. I was like, should I start to try to like get some like Duolingo on here and start to learn some Russian? I am so bad at learning languages, though. I took Spanish in high school. I was terrible at it. I took Spanish in college. I was also terrible at it. So I am highly skeptical that I will be able to learn Russian. But I will say that if there is an enterprising young journalist who wants to make his or her bones in the Flyers coverage world, learning Russian wouldn't be a bad way to do it, because it would immediately get you an in with the guy who the Flyers are hoping to build around for the next decade plus.
Absolutely. Northeast Philly, please help us out. We would really appreciate it there. All right, real quick, guys, let's take a quick break, quick timeout. Let's talk real quick about our friends over at Mortgage CS. Important to remind you that we are presented by Mortgage CS. So guys, look, I know it's scary, right? The home buying process these days. I've been there before, and I just want to give you little words of advice. Obviously, finding the right home is super important, but also finding the right mortgage company is probably as important as finding the right home there. And that's why I want to talk to you guys about Mortgage CS. Today's real estate market is super competitive. Prospective home buyers, perhaps just like you, are missing out on the opportunity to win the perfect home. But why? It's because you don't have Mortgage CS in your corner. Maybe news to you, but the mortgage company you choose matters more than ever. Even if you're already in the market, you can still explore options with Mortgage CS, because, guys, this is home financing. It's not a marriage. You may be shocked how much money you could be saving. Best part about Mortgage CS, guys, is that they're located here in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia area. They're a mortgage broker located here in the Philadelphia area. That's the best part, because, guys, we love rooting for local. That's why we're Flyers fans, because we love rooting for our Philly team. So that means that they won't steer you to just one mortgage option. They're going to find what's best for you. They will work with you and not the banks. And Ben and Alec are awesome over at Mortgage CS. They will ensure you have a rock-solid pre-approval, and they will take the time to explore anything you want. You want a novel idea? That's why Mortgage CS is a mortgage concierge service here. And, guys, I want you right now to text Ben. All right, you can see at the bottom of the screen if you're watching live on YouTube. Ben's the CEO of Mortgage CS. His phone number is 267-391-7425. Ask him his thoughts on Eric Johnson coming back, buddying up with Matvei Michkov. Or you can get your home buying process started today. Ask any advice you may need. They're that transparent with you, and that's the best part about it. There's a reason people are winning with Mortgage CS. So call or text Ben now at 267-391-7425, or you can go online to mortgagecs.com/PHLY, and you can even check out their over 375 perfect 5-star reviews by searching Mortgage CS right now. And also let them know that your friends over at PHLY sent you over there. This advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject for a credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS ID 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com for more information. And real quick, guys, it's currently 1:43 in the afternoon here on the PHLY Flyers show. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. We really, really appreciate it. Just do us a solid. Hit that like button, especially if you're enjoying today's talk. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Subscribe. You know, we have obviously this great show, but we have so many great shows here on PHLY Sports, especially if you're a Philly sports fan. So you want to make sure you guys are subscribed. We're also available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. You can find this show under PHLY Flyers. You can listen to us on the way to work or to hockey practice, whatever it may be. We can be wherever you want, all right? And, of course, you guys see it at the bottom left of your screen. You need to become a diehard, guys. I can't stress enough, become a diehard. You love Charlie O'Connor like I do? Well, guys, if you become a diehard, you can read his exclusive content, okay, guys? He's always putting out the best content here for hockey lovers, so make sure you guys check that out on there. You can also get a part of that Discord community. We have great discourse on all those chats, not only just the Flyers, but all the Philly sports there. And the best part about it, you get the discount on the merchandise, guys. Right now, we have the Michkov Mania t-shirt, which I can't wait to get my hands on and start rocking it on the Anthony Gargano show. So, guys, make sure you get this shirt. You get like I said, if you become a diehard, you get that discount. So make sure you guys are becoming a diehard. Oh, yeah, I'm just staring at this T-shirt right now. But guys, make sure you guys become a diehard, and that's what we got going on here at PHLY Flyers.
We do. I'm really excited about the shirts. Obviously, we're going to only have more and more as the year goes on. But right now, the big story is one Matvei Michkov. The Michkov Mania shirts, they're selling fast. So get your shirt. Be ready. You want to be wearing that shirt in Voorhees when he steps on the ice for the first time in an organized session and the crowd's going wild. You can't even get a parking spot because the place is so packed. You want to wear your Michkov Mania shirt.
Or even like game one. I mean, sure, it's going to be nice weather, even though we have to wait a little bit for that home opener, but it might be T-shirt weather still, so you might want to rock that to the Farg.
Could be. You can wear your Michkov Mania T-shirt, and then over top of it, wear your Bryce Harper jersey.
There you go.
Because obviously the Phillies are still going to be in the playoffs when the home opener comes around, since they're obviously going to the World Series.
I love that, Charlie. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
There we go. All right. Well, we don't have a lot more for you today, but I do want to talk about something that popped up on my Twitter feed yesterday.
Let's do it.
And it is a little bit of a, maybe not repudiation, but it runs counter to the argument you see from some fans who are not happy with the way that the Danny Briere rebuild is going. Mm-hmm. And they want to argue that it's not actually a rebuild. Well, interestingly enough, we had a tweet from NHL Rosters looking at the youngest NHL teams based on the average age of current projected 20-man game rosters. This obviously includes one Matvei Michkov. Flyers are projected to be the second youngest roster in the league, behind only Buffalo, with an average age of 26.1. Wow. That does seem very rebuildish in terms of playing. Maybe they are not playing every single prospect. Mm-hmm. Maybe they have some guys like Eric Johnson or whatever, but I imagine Eric Johnson isn't even part of this because he is the 7. He's expected to not play every game. Mm-hmm. So he would not be part of the 20-man game roster that's being projected. But this does speak to the fact the Flyers it may not feel like it all the time, but they are in the midst of a youth movement.
Could it be that the Flyers are rebuilding in the proper way, Charlie?
I mean, I have my issues with some specifics of how they are rebuilding. I will not particularly love it if they re-sign Travis Konechny to an 8-year contract worth, around or over $9 million a year. I would not view that necessarily to be a logical move that a rebuilding team makes. But I will say that I respect the patience, and I do think that they are serious about rebuilding in a non-panicky, we're just going to make moves to make moves. I respect that they are committed to their rebuild to the point where they were trading away Sean Walker at the trade deadline despite sitting in a playoff spot because they knew that even if they made the playoffs with Sean Walker, they weren't going to out of round 1 anyway. So you might as well get a first-round pick back for him. So I'm not saying I endorse everything they're doing, but I do think they absolutely are rebuilding. And I do respect the fact that they are taking this rebuild seriously. And they are, as that stat shows, they're giving the kids a real shot.
Well, it's funny because I get my stones busted in the morning because when I talk about the Flyers and what we're doing, I do love the culture that we are building. And I look at some of the young players, we always talk about the Cam Yorks, the Owen Tippett's, the Bobby Brinks, Tyson Forsters. I truly feel like they have been headed in the right direction. They're taking the proper steps. You can even throw Morgan Frost in there. I feel like these players have taken the proper steps. And I do like the fact that there are a group of veteran players on this team that have been playing in this league for a little bit. And like I talked about earlier, I do think that that's extremely valuable for a rebuild like this. So look, I know people, they don't want to see veteran players. The thought of extending Travis Konechny should honestly, it should freak us all out. Because like you said, that's a large figure for Travis Konechny. But you have to enjoy that. And I'm always going to compare this to the Sixers process in their rebuild because I watched that vividly step by step, and they had patience up until the NBA said no more, right?
Yeah,
and so. And I don't know how much development was necessarily going on when you had just a bunch of G League players, but this is completely different you actually have kids who have promising futures, and you still have Coots, you still have Travis Konechny, you still have Travis Sanheim, Eric Johnson in there as well. And so I think that what the Flyers are doing is it's a heavy medium, right? And obviously Danny's stockpiling picks too, which is even better, Charlie.
Yeah, and that's something I talked about in my article at the start of this week. My article on the offseason, and about how wasn't a terrible offseason. Obviously, getting Mitchkov over a huge win, but it was a missed opportunity. They are going to need to add high-end talent at some point, aside from Matvei Mitchkov, who we are hoping is going to qualify as high-end talent to be sure. But they're going to need to add more guys, and they didn't do that this summer. They didn't, unless Jet Lushenko is a future star, which, hey, could be, but we don't know. He certainly wasn't viewed as such by a lot of scouts. He was viewed as more of a, 2C maybe, has some upside, could break out, but probably doesn't have the ceiling as, Berkeley Catton or a Caden Lidstrom or something like that. That said, what we're talking about here is a team that has a lot of good young players. They do. I mean, I'm going through this roster. I'm now looking at Puckpedia because our good friends, Cat Friendly, are gone. So looking at Puckpedia, but we got Owen Tippett's 25, and I still think he has untapped potential. Joel Farabee's 24. I don't think he is yet what he is ultimately going to be. Bobby Brink is 23. Matvei Mitchkov obviously is 19. Tyson Forrester is 22. Then we look at the defense. You got Jamie Drysdale at 22. Igor Zamula at 24. Cam York at 23. So there are guys on this team that in theory, and I'm not saying I'm expecting it, but there are guys on this team that in theory could break out. They could. And they could, because like all the guys I mentioned are at least good. Maybe Bobby Brink is still trying to prove himself as an NHLer, but all the guys I mentioned have established themselves as perfectly solid NHLers. But any one of those guys could theoretically, maybe not Zamula. I don't think I think particularly highly of his upside, but like any of those players I noted could show up next season and have a breakout season, and suddenly they look like the high-end talent the Flyers need. Now, am I expecting it to happen to any specific player? Like I have, I may think that like Joel Farabee, Owen Tippett, Jamie Drysdale, they maybe have a higher chance to get to that point, Tyson Forrester. But I'm not going into the season expecting like, yeah, this is the year when Owen Tippett scores 40 goals. But I can't rule out the possibility of it happening. Like it is a possibility. And all of those guys, Cam York could explode and start scoring points at the NHL level and putting up incredible underlying metrics in the top pair role. Tyson Forrester could turn into Mark Stone. There are a lot of possibilities where these young guys could, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but they could take big steps. And if one or two of them do, suddenly the need for high-end talent is not nearly as great. And then Danny Briere's plan looks even smarter. So that's what we really should be hoping for going into the season. Sam Erson's another guy where, Erson could, in theory, take a big step and establish himself as a true number one goalie. Not saying I'm expecting it, but I'm just saying you can't rule out the possibility. It is a plausible outcome.
And that's what makes this fun, right? Like you have that optimism, you have that hope, like being at Chickies and Pete's store in draft night, feeling that the vibes from people who are excited for the future. We had guys stitching together the Russian Matvei Mitchkov jersey with the Flyers jersey. Like there's actual excitement here for this team, and watching these prospects grow up before our eyes. Like I think that's extremely entertaining, and we'll see what happens later on down the line with this team when you do have a little more cap space and these guys are a little bit older, more experienced as well. And like you said, Charlie, they take those proper steps too. But you have to be excited if you're a Flyers fan. I genuinely believe this is heading in the right direction.
I really hope it is, JP, because you know what? Flyers fans have dealt with enough bullshit over the last decade plus. They deserve a legitimately good team. Whether they win the cup or not in the Matvei Mitchkov era, I don't know. You need a lot of things. You need a smart GM, number one, but you also need luck. You need luck to win cups. There are lots of good teams that just never broke through. But what Flyers fans deserve is a team that has a chance. They deserve a team that for a 4, 5, 6 year period, you're going into the season and you're like, we could do it. It's not a guarantee, but we could win it all. It's like, Sixers fans, like, yes, the Sixers have not come through. They haven't gotten out of the second round, and that's frustrating. And I totally get why Sixers fans are frustrated. But it's undeniable that basically ever since Joel Embiid's third season, Sixers fans go into every year thinking like, we could win it. It's possible. Maybe we're not the favorite, but we're one of 6 or 7 teams going into every season that if things break right, we could win it all. I just want Flyers fans to have that feeling going into a season where it's not like they have to root for a miracle. It's no, we are one of the 7 or 8 best teams in the league for sure. And if we make the right moves, if we make the right acquisitions at the trade deadline, if we get injury luck in the playoffs, we could win it all. That's what I want for Flyers fans. I want that hope.
Yeah, and you're talking about that luck. If we do get a little bit of that luck, like we've seen here in Philadelphia, Charlie, with the Phillies, heck, I'll even throw the Union because I've been there for some hectic playoff games. The atmosphere for playoff games in the city cannot be matched. So we're talking about a little bit of that luck. You get a little bit of that home ice advantage later on down the line. You might get a little bit of that luck, but just you'll get great scenes. You just I miss that orange, that orange rush that you saw for the playoff games, in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Like it needs to come back, and it needs to come back soon enough.
The Wells Fargo Center in Flyers playoff games is unreal. I mean, I went to 2 playoff games during the 2010 run. I went to the game against the Devils when Dan Carcillo scored the game winner in overtime and then was like searching for someone to celebrate with. It was just such a legendary celebration moment. And then I was at game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final, the game where they chased Yaroslav Halak. And the loudness of the crowd, number 1, when Carcillo scored that goal, but number 2, when it became clear that Halak was getting pulled, that was unreal. And I've covered playoff games since, as a journalist. I've covered Flyers playoff games. I covered the Penguins series. I covered the Capital series. I guess I technically covered the bubble playoffs, but I was doing it from my living room. I wouldn't really consider that to be coverage. So I have seen playoff games at the Wells Fargo Center as a journalist. But none of those games reached the level of that 2010 run. Because in those playoff series, I think fans pretty much knew that the Flyers probably weren't going to win. Maybe they could pull an upset, but there wasn't a feeling of we are one of the favorites. We could actually do this. That's what I want back for Flyers fans. I want Flyers fans to go into a season and think this could be the year, not deluding themselves, but actually rationally believing this could be the year. That's what I want for Flyers fans.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait. Charlie, make plans this weekend?
Well, I will be participating in our golf scramble in New Jersey on Saturday. So if you are going to be attending, say hi, keep an eye out for me. I will be there. As of now, I know the weather doesn't look great, but it does appear that it's supposed to clear up in the afternoon. So as of now, the golf tournament, the golf scramble is still a go. So if you're there, feel free to stop me and say hi. Always happy to talk with and meet with listeners and viewers and readers. But JP, I guess I'll ask you. You have any plans this weekend before we call it a day?
It's the big one, Charlie. It's my bachelor party tomorrow. So
wow. Okay. I love that. So you're gonna get a Copa America final in your bachelor party weekend? That's cool.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna feel Monday, but I'm not gonna worry about Monday, JP. I'm worrying about this weekend, JP. But yeah, I'm excited.
Exactly.
We're obviously, being the crazy Philly sports fan that I am, we're going to the ballpark tomorrow to start it off, and then we'll be in the city bopping around at night. But yeah, nothing crazy. I'm excited. And then obviously Sunday, I still have to figure out where I'm going to watch the match. I've been watching it at home only because I do like watching big games with people, but I just don't know how many big Columbia fans I'm going to find in the city.
Right.
And I'm glued to the TV, and I don't need those side talks. I don't want to talk about, who's hot, who's not on the team. I want to just focus on soccer. So I'll have to figure that out.
JP, I respect that, and I will be rooting for Columbia on your behalf on Sunday. JP,
Charlie.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for stepping in for Bill today. Definitely thanks so much to our live viewers and everyone who listens to the podcast after we've already aired. But that will just about do it for us at the PHLY Flyers podcast. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much for listening. And we will see you next week.
See you guys.